Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Financial Beast Podcast. Of course, I'm your BFFF, best financial friend forever, Eric Miller. So what's happening here is that we're having a lot of weather events. I live in Florida, so we've had hurricanes, and then there's been a lot of flooding. So, we wanted to tackle the topic of preparedness. And everybody that owns a business, obviously remembers what happened back in 2020. And what do we do during emergencies? And what kind of plan do we need to have set up so that we can survive, these emergencies? And unfortunately, I think a lot of us just forgot that these kind of events can happen. So we wanted to tackle this today in the podcast. We did this with my advisor, Eric, where we go through things that you need to make sure that you have in place. We look at it from a financial perspective. We look at it from a business perspective, and just making sure that you are, as prepared as you possibly can for any kind of an event that happens. So it's timely. I think you'll enjoy the podcast. And as always, guys, make sure that you reach out to us if you need any kind of financial assistance. We're doing free wealth analysis right now that will allow us to show you, building multiple income streams, making sure that you have enough for retirement. Go to econologics.com, take advantage of any offer that we have out there, and make sure that you are taking care of your finances 100%, because nobody cares more about your money than you do. I'll see you guys on the next podcast. All right, we're live.
Welcome back.
You're looking pretty alive and well.
I had a good weekend in Scottsdale. Where were you? You were Houston?
Where was I? Dallas.
Dallas? Tomato, I guess.
Pretty much.
I don't know if our Texas people would agree with that, but
they most certainly would not. But
well, good.
We were both, actually, you were here for the hurricane.
Yes, I was.
I was not. I was actually not here.
Yeah, it was, I'm not going to say it was the strongest one that I've ever been through, wind-wise, but the water is what causes the damage. It's really not, wind will mess up your roof, but that's usually it. Water will mess up everything. I have a good buddy. He's a lawyer here locally, and he actually lives where my condo, before we bought our house, we lived in a condo, and he lives in that same area. It's just a bunch of different developments around a golf course. But anyways, they just did a $70,000 kitchen remodel and had a newborn about 2 months ago, and their house completely flooded. So now they're in an Airbnb. They had to gut the floors, cut out the walls up to the water. It's just a mess.
It is
doing all that with a baby,
It is a mess.
So
it is a mess. And then even, what's worse is when like a storm like that hits Florida. Florida's pretty prepared for it for the most part, right? But when that thing moves and then goes north and then hits places like the Carolinas or Georgia that are not prepared for 12 inches of rain.
Yeah. It's devastation.
Gone. Completely gone.
Yeah.
Which kind of prompted us on the topic today, like preparing for the unexpected.
Yeah. What should you be doing?
Yeah. So, it's because I'm telling you, like the shock of what happens to people after something like this happens, you could just see in everybody's faces. It's utter confusion.
Yep. Yeah, some of these people lost everything. And I didn't really look at it till today. I'd heard of it, but I was on TikTok earlier today, and I saw a bunch of pictures and videos of these small towns in North Carolina that are like
wiped out. Yeah. No roads.
God
knows how many people are still stranded up in that mountain.
Yeah.
Or in the mountains. All the people that had houses up there, all the Airbnbs that were up there.
Gone.
People that were just traveling out of state, they don't know what to do up there. They're like renting a house that they have no idea, like what to do. Probably can't get in contact with anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bad scene. But I think it's like it's one of these things that hopefully is going to wake up everyone to. I need to make sure, like, if there is a disaster that hits, like, we know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we have preparedness to be able to do that. So, and it can be anything. I mean, it can be a weather related event. It could be something that causes, the government to shut, businesses down. I mean, I like to think that people learned from 4 years ago.
Probably not.
Not really. Not really. Like, if I looked at all of the practice owners that we deal with right now, how many of them would be prepared for another event if it were to occur? Some kind. Now, I'd say some of them probably would be better.
I think more people are prepared, but not enough still.
Yeah.
There's definitely, I definitely have a lot of clients that take, like, having emergency reserves, for example, much more seriously than they did 5 years ago.
Well, let's start with that then, because I think we have to look at there's financial preparedness for something like that happens, and then there's just having some kind of an execution plan.
Yep.
If there is some kind of an event. I mean, the financial preparedness, maybe that falls. There's a couple of things I think that you would look at. Obviously, number one, just having money and access to it.
Yeah,
so,
cash in the bank.
Yeah, there's got to be access to liquidity of some kind, whether it's 1 to 2 months of reserves in the business, whether it's cash that you guys have in checking and savings accounts, whether it's access to your investments, credit lines. What else would you need?
That's really, I mean, yeah, that's as far as like reachable cash. I think that's really the main ones. Is your, number one, you should have your emergency fund, right? Generally speaking, 90 days on the personal side and 30 to 60 days on the business side, depending on, a variety of factors.
Yeah.
If you have that plus some credit lines, I mean, you're good.
Yeah. You should be able to get through.
You're good on the access to money point.
Yeah. And even on some of your investments as well. I mean, if you got, even stocks and bonds, you can get lines of credit against those if you need to.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you can't, you can get those converted to cash and in your account in 3 days with a cell phone. And
then insurance policies, cash value insurance policies are still pretty awesome in terms of access to cash.
Yep, you can get that as quick as 24 hours.
Yeah, so, I think that's another thing that a lot of people don't think about that fortunately we've been able to do a lot of. And we've got people that need to access it very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, all the time.
And, probably more so this year than any time I've seen. Where we got people just getting loans from their insurance policies.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that lately.
Yeah, so I mean, it's accessible. So I think the point is that you guys need to make sure that you have liquidity and access to it, and exactly how much you have liquidity wise.
Yep.
With everything that you own,
where it is.
Yep.
How much it is, how you can get to it.
Yeah.
That's what you need to know.
So I think that's definitely on the financial side. Now, another, I think, umbrella underneath the financial side would be
insurance.
Insurance, right? So then, most people right now, I've seen on a lot of threads are like asking questions about what their insurance actually covers.
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure on the commercial side, so I don't want to speak for that, but I can say definitively on the homeowner side, if you're looking at houses, Homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage.
Mm-hmm.
Homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. I'll say it again. If your house floods and you do not have flood insurance, you are screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as simple as that.
It really is. And even down here in Florida, I mean, storms are part of life.
Yep.
It's amazing how many people don't know that.
Yep.
And I think, okay, if Floridians don't know that, what are the odds that someone up in the mountains
are going to have any
know
idea?
That?
Yeah.
Because they seemingly have no reason to until they do.
Why would I need flood insurance for?
Yeah.
You know, like that's until it happens. I don't know that if they even knew they were in a flood zone. I could probably imagine that flood insurance would probably be pretty cheap.
Yeah, flood insurance is rated based on your flood risk. So the lower risk you are, the lower your premium is.
Yeah.
And it can be extremely cheap. I mean, even in Florida, I mean, I'm not in a flood zone, but I still carry flood insurance because anything's possible.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it is exactly, but I know when I got it back in 2021, it was like $20 a month or $16 a month. It was something low where it was just like, I'd be dumb not to get this.
Yeah. And even if you live in like a flood zone, I mean, it's almost required at that point in time.
Yeah. If you're in a flood zone, it's required to get a mortgage generally.
Yeah, you're going to have to get it anyway. So, what about your business though? You know, what if it's the same thing if you own a practice as well.
Yeah.
So, I think on the personal side, make sure that you look at your insurance policies and what is covered under them. You know, like, I mean, this is just kind of planning 101. Like every year, maybe meet with your agent and just go over your different insurance policies that you have, from your life policies to your auto policies to your homeowner policies to your umbrella policies to your disability policies, whatever, you know, and make sure that you are crystal clear on what it covers and what it doesn't cover.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I looked this up because I wanted to be sure before I said it, but it's the same thing on the commercial side. You have to buy flood protection separately.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's protection on the facility, commercial insurance to cover the facility if something, if there's wind damage or if there's fire or something like that, right? But if there's flood, then there has to be separate flood insurance.
Yep. And flood insurance covers flood. And not only does it cover the flood damage to the building, right? Because sometimes floods will break windows, knock out walls. It also covers the contents, Yeah. And that's what a lot of people are going to be in a rude awakening for, is fixing flood damage is expensive. But you know what else is expensive is refilling your house with all the stuff we need. And same thing on the business side. I mean,
so part of the preparedness then would be to make sure you have pictures, make sure you have receipts, make sure you have inventory of all the equipment that you have in your facility. Yeah. It's going to make it a lot easier for the insurance companies to be able to reimburse you if they know exactly what you have. Yeah.
Absolutely. Same on the personal side. You know, you want to know what you have, because like the way insurance values things is like, say you have a 40-inch flat screen, right?
Yeah.
They just assign a value to 40-inch flat screen. If you don't have proof, because there's a big difference between a 40-inch flat screen from Walmart and like a high-end one from Best Buy.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't prove you have the high-end one for Best Buy, they're going to reimburse you at the Walmart rate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
okay. So another part of someone's plan is just making sure, like, especially if you're in an area where something bad can happen, that you have an inventory of all your, I mean, you should have this anyway. Like if you own a practice of any kind, like you should have some kind of a spreadsheet that has a list of all your equipment that you have in that facility, when it was purchased, um, and receipt of it, just because it's a good business practice anyway. Like, because if someone's gonna buy your practice, they're gonna want to know where all the assets are.
Yep.
Sure.
And even if you're not in a, you said if you're in a disaster area, 25% of flood, I'm just going back to floods, but 25% of flood claims occur to homes and businesses that are outside of high risk areas.
Wow.
It's 1 in 4.
So there's 25% chance that it would happen, even though you don't think it would happen. It could happen. Okay.
It could.
Wow.
It could.
That's pretty crazy. And then, okay, so there's a disaster that hits. My business can't run. What do I do then?
Yeah, so I think you have the 3 key things, right? We've covered number 1 is reserves.
Yep.
Number 2 is being properly insured.
Yep.
Number 3 is having a plan.
Yeah. Also on the proper insurance, I would think that there's some kind of business continuation insurance that almost every person can buy.
Yeah, there's like business overhead.
Yeah, business overhead that would cover a percentage of your overhead.
Yes. Yeah, business overhead is what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I think another question that people would have too, I actually saw this in a thread. Let's say you're in North Carolina. Let's say you're in an area where all of a sudden you can't see patients.
Yep.
At all. Right? And you have no idea how long it's going to be before you can actually see patients at all. So now you have a question. When is the date that you have to look at whether or not I need to keep my people or I can't afford it anymore? I can try to bring them back at some point in time. But, obviously if you have reserves, if you have business insurance, if you have some of these other things, you can maintain people and keep them on the payroll. But you have to have at least some idea of when you would not be able to do that. It happened to a lot of people back in 2020.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of layoffs,
and unfortunately you have to make that decision. I know it's a sucky decision to have to make, but, your responsibility is to make sure the practice can stay there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So you have to think about this is all part of a plan that you're going to have. So I think everyone should come up with some kind of we're required to do this as an investment advisor.
Yeah, we have to have a business continuity.
We have to have a business continuity plan, which basically means if there is some kind of a disaster where we can't function or work or, whatever would happen, what are the steps that are going to allow us to keep business going, to allow people to have access to their money, to be able to keep phone calls going, all those things. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know that most practice owners have business continuity plans because number one, I don't think you're required to by any regulatory body. And so no one really knows what they're going to do.
Yeah. And I mean, there's parts that are tougher too. I mean, obviously you and I, we can do our job from a cell phone and laptop at 99.9%.
It's true. We were talking about this yesterday. I was talking with Joe about this yesterday. It was like, we can do phone calls through the computer. We can do pretty much business as usual. We all could be in separate locations.
Yeah, you can't, give vaccines to dogs through the computer.
No, you can't do that. Not yet. Maybe one day. Not yet.
So,
but I think,
nonetheless, you still have to have some sort of plan for what you would do.
Yeah. So I think, and I don't have a good answer as far as what it would look like. I think it would just be, okay, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to meet. This is, who I'm going to need to do certain things, and drill it, maybe once a year, just so you have it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, all those fire drills you did in school, when you were required to do, I mean, like once a month or whatever it was. And they were kind of fun and annoying at the same time. But I mean, at least you knew where to go.
Yeah. Repetition drills that into everyone's head. And then it becomes second nature when something inevitably happens at some point.
So I think every business owner should have some kind of a business continuity plan where they look at it once a year and say, okay, if this kind of thing happens, like if my practice gets hit by a bus, or a tornado or a hurricane or a flood, what are we going to do?
Yep.
Who am I going to call? Who are my list? Have a list of all your contacts of people that you're going to need to call. Your insurance people, your, I guess who else would be on that list? Your advisors, everyone that you would need, you would think on that list. These are the important contacts that you would need.
Yep. Your employees.
Have your list of employees. Have a method that you could make sure that you can reach all of your patients. Most people have obviously a database and they can email and they can do all these things, but make sure that you have a method of like, what's my line to my people?
Yep.
How do we get in touch with them? What else would you need in a business continuity plan? I'm trying to think about ours. And,
I mean, I know this is probably easier said than done, but I would have a idea of how would I be able to produce some revenue.
Yep.
Like, for example, if I'm a vet, right?
Know your competitors too. Because look, they're going to be going through the same thing, let's say you're in the same town where everybody gets hit. That's another reason to try to maintain good relations with people, because you never know when you're going to need help.
Yeah.
So I know that there's competitors that people have maybe on the other side of town or something like that, if you guys maintain good relations with people, then they're going to be a lot more receptive to helping you when you're in a time of need.
Yeah.
So
I've seen this before where, like say a veterinarian can see appointments, but like their surgical area was affected. That vet might, have an agreement with that competitor where, hey, I'm going to send you the surgeries for the next 60 days. I'd appreciate it if you could get them in. That competitor does the surgeries, but doesn't try to snipe the patient. And you would do the same for them if the tables were turned. Maybe that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, maybe there's some kind of a agreement, simple handshake agreement, whatever it would be.
Yeah.
With other people that you have in that area. Like, I mean, again, but this is all part of like it's called a business continuity plan. And again, unfortunately, I don't think that most practice owners are required to have one. I could be wrong. That if there's some regulatory, I have
never heard a single practice owner mention business continuity plan. I do not think it's a requirement.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I was thinking maybe a regulatory body would require something like this, some kind of a state, but I really don't think they do. I think it's on you.
Yeah, I think we're just unique because we're dealing with people's money,
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I think I would encourage everyone to formulate some kind of a plan of some kind, so that if a disaster does hit, it doesn't like completely wipe you out. The worst thing you can be is in a state of confusion. And when you're in confusion, you make bad decisions.
Yep.
You just do. So when you have the plan, I mean, and obviously I can relate this to somebody's personal finances as well. I mean, a lot of people get into difficult financial situations aside from weather related incidents. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And, because they never had a plan of or a strategy of exactly what they're going to do, the disaster hits.
Yep.
So look, an emergency is something that I wouldn't say 100%, is expected. An expected occurrence that you do not know when it's going to happen. That's the emergency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, everybody knows there's going to be some, like for us, we know there's going to be another hurricane, right?
Be another hurricane. There will be another flood.
Yep.
There'll
be another fire. There'll be another tornado.
The power will shut down at some point in time. You're going to have a car accident. Your tires going to go flat at some point in time. You just don't know when.
Most emergencies are somewhat predictable.
They're somewhat predictable. It's the timing of when it's going to happen that is unpredictable.
Yes.
Right. It's when it's going to happen.
Yep.
So if you have that preparedness there, then I think it's something that everyone should have. I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't take very long. You can just kind of like think it through, maybe have a meeting with some of your key executives or your key people and say, hey, if this happened, what the hell would we do?
You don't need to have a 60-page typed out document,
No, but just something that you guys can go to that would be stable datum that would be like, okay, remember we came up with this plan. These are the things that we need to do in order to make sure that we can continue business and, adjust to that. I think that's the bottom line on that. All right. Well,
I agree.
Everybody be safe. And I'm sure most of the people that are going through it will get through it because that's what people do. But get prepared.
Till next time.